Alright, hit the button. Yeah, in response video to the Modern Mystic again. Anyway, fairness. Yeah, he's just said some crazy shit, you know. So anyway, here's some comments on this video. It's not fair is the title with some squiggly exclamation point. I don't know what that stands for. Anyway, I love some of these assholes that his little choir that he's preaching to. And that's why, you know, some of this is just so pointless, is because you can't make the argument in any way that matters. You know, it's just preaching to different choirs. But these are the assholes. You know, just so stupid. Let's see, well, management decision making becomes more and more efficiency based the higher one climbs, which is just a pile of crap. It doesn't have anything to do with efficiency by any rational standard. It usually has to do with how can we maintain the racket, how can we steal more money. No secret, the simple fact, life is competitive. That's the whole point. At least the life that sustains 6.5 million of us, 6.65 million of us on this rock. Well, guess what? It's billion, asshole. Prayer wheels won't cut the mustard. Duh. There is neither any efficiency to be found in kicking a dairy cow in the udders. I love that. See, that's just these perfect assholes who think the rich are somehow the udder of the cow. You know, that they're somehow the producers. They're not the producers. They're the controllers, and they're shitty at it. Is the bottom line. Their ambition isn't to create efficiency or productivity. Their ambition is to just get richer and to do less and less to acquire that wealth. Justice and fairness are not the same thing. Happiness is not a right. It's just stupid to sit there. Justice and fairness are not the same thing, but I'm not going to qualify that with any kind of rational argument. So that means nothing. Truth trumps them all, which means absolutely nothing also. Actually, this would depend on what you want to get done specifically and for what purpose. I will make a follow-up video on this next week. Oh, this is Stella. In order to articulate the counterpoint a bit better, it's not 100% opposed to the world views. There are some major differences for sure. Yeah, so she's, you know, being polite, but I'm sorry. Anybody who can't define fairness is an idiot, and I'll point that out. I always get a good chuckle when people start yammering about fairness. It just seems to be a juvenile concept. See, this is typical person, never worked a day in their life, I bet. Who is to say what is fair and what is not? Well, let me start answering the question. There's more of that crap. Well, I really want to get to the crap, so I'll just get the crap over with and I'll get to the point. Don't waste your time, MM. These kind of people just think it's better to have 100% of the population living in poverty rather than 90% living in prosperity and 1% in poverty. Some more just complete crap. You know, it has nothing to do with reality. Those aren't real numbers. 99% living in prosperity. Get real. That's not the world, you idiot. And the pie is the world pie. Fucktard. It's no longer your backyard, the world. Well stated, and Mystic. Ella, my friends from the USSR were told they'd live in a fair state, where everybody was given their fair amount and treated fairly. But in reality, dissenters, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, you can go through all that crap, but that argument works both ways. And is the dear Soviet Union, are the average workers better off in the Soviet Union now? I don't think so. Their dear capitalism hasn't served them too well. So anyway, these are the kind of assholes. Even the SNF, you know, gets the comment on here. So, but the comment I'll get to is the Modern Mystic. He's first argued that, you know, here we go. So somebody argued about the pyramid. So he said, that was the intent of my question. Oh no, it's the wrong one. Where's the Mystic answer? It's a good question. The answer would be, okay, here we go. Were the pyramids built to increase the size of the pie? This is a good question. The answer must be no. It was not to increase the size of the pie. But I think without much doubt, it did increase the size of the pie. So this is just demonstration. The Modern Mystic, Nick doesn't understand anything. He doesn't, I mean really, if he thinks the pie is increased by throwing money down the toilet, you know, and because you clog the toilet with dollar bills, that somehow the pie is bigger, just demonstrates he's an idiot. I mean, waste is not a bigger pie. And when you build something that can produce no, well, let me make the argument. Yeah, see that when he also said slavery might be okay, because yeah, it's productive. So he made that implication that you know, some level that it might be acceptable to him, because yeah, it's only a minority of people that you're abusing. I won't put words in his mouth, but I mean he put the words on the board. But let's just deal with this these two issues of defining fairness, which really isn't tricky, and the idea of understanding that you don't make the pie bigger by doing wasted work. That the if you look at the pyramid example, now the pie would have gotten bigger if all that labor had gone into building houses. So if you think about it realistically, for each brick that was moved hundreds of miles and placed in its position, you could have built a fully equipped, you know, a full, you know, furniture included, probably middle class house of that time. You could have built with the energy wasted moving that brick, and that house could theoretically produce rent for 100 years, and so that would be a bigger pie. You'd have a resource that people could use. So again, for every brick, you could build a mile of roads, or whatever the, you know, a mile of canal, a mile of something that would have been productive hundreds of years into the future. They could have built a dam even, maybe the biggest water wheel in the world instead of the biggest stupid tombs in the world. That would have been a bigger pie, as it would have created more energy, more facility, more human comfort. It would have enabled workers to do other work because they would have been more productive. They wouldn't have had to waste as much work doing work because they would have a device in place that made the work easier. You make a road, you make work 3 times easier to do. You can move 3 times as much commerce, or 4 times, or 5 times, with the same amount of energy expended. So that's how you make a pie bigger, is by eliminating unnecessary work, and therefore creating leisure opportunity, or the opportunity for getting paid more money for less work. And that's bigger pie kind of stuff. But dopey pyramids that you can't collect any rent on, that have no social value, that no one can live in, that won't block the rain from anybody, won't do a goddamn thing for anyone, is not making the pie bigger. It's flushing the resource of work down the toilet. And that's what the rich do every time they build one of their mansions, or every time they, you know, build one of their yachts, and then they, you know, fix the harbor or dredge the harbor for them and do all the other crap. All that work is just wasted work. It's just pyramid labor, and it doesn't make the pie any bigger. It's only good for the short duration of the employment, and once the employment is over, it's gone. It's wasted. It's just been thrown away. The money will never come back. The capacity to invest in a new project won't come back. There won't be any productivity built out of it. It's just squandered and wasted labor. It just means that everybody else has to work harder for less money. And that's what that unproductive expenditures impose. For him not to understand that, it's just that's just basic to any kind of understanding of economics, is to understand the difference between productive labor and wasted labor. I mean, one of them, you can't, if it's wasted labor, it's just that, wasted labor. It doesn't do anyone any good. There is absolutely no point in digging a hole and then filling it back in again. Even if it is a job, it's a job better not done. It's a waste of calories. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of consciousness. It's just an utter and pathetic waste. And that's what all this rich squandering of our resources amounts to. And then when you consider how much they waste in terms of their schemes, their business schemes, their Enrons, and their even Amazons, all the silly businesses they create that are terribly inefficient. What Google did to the competitive industry in search, even in advertising, you know, by doing the simple little, yeah, go in there, wipe everybody out of business for 2 years because you're giving it all away, and then you own the territory, and no one's going to take you on because you go public and you collect a 3 or 4 $100 billion in a war chest. And so yeah, who's going to play? Who's going to take on that giant? There's not a David with big enough balls on earth, and that's business. That's silly. All right, now let's get to the fairness shit. All right, this fairness argument's about, Nick isn't going to sit there and ever deal with the fundamental question: is who owns most of the stock market? Are these guys who are, he talks about like these go-getters, like these are all self-made men, like everybody who's rich acquired the wealth on their own, through their own initiative, their own labor, their own scheming, even if it was their own, and that's not the truth. Okay, so why don't you give me an honest number, Nick? What percentage of ownership in the world do you think was truly earned by the individual holding that ownership or owning that control? How much of the control is in hands of people who actually did legitimate, hard-earned labor to acquire that control? What percentage? Let me hear a number, Nick. What's your delusion, anyway? So don't give me this argument that you're stealing from people who, are necessary initiative producers or workers, because that's not how it works. That's not the reality. So what we're talking about is how this control is divvied out. And basically the system we have, it's like monopoly. So you assholes who sit there and talk about, fairness as if it's some sort of, plasma that you could never get a grip on. If you played a game of Monopoly, and it was 4 people playing the game, and you decide to say, yeah, okay, well, we'll just give that guy Penthouse and Park Place, right? Isn't it the Penthouse? I don't know if that doesn't sound right, Penthouse. Well, Boardwalk and Park Place. Penthouse. Anyway, it'd probably be good to have Penthouse on there and Playboy and, yeah, instead of the railroads. But anyway, yeah, you just gave them, the railroads even. You gave them the 4 railroads. You said, here, okay, you start the game with the 4 railroads, and now we'll play the game. That would be idiotic. It'd be silly. It'd be stupid. The game's ruined. You're not going to have a game anymore, all right, because we have a huge head start. And what head starts are just totally destructive. So we know what the 90 percentile odds are of somebody winning. If somebody even acquires the railroads in the game, they have a huge likelihood of winning if they do it honestly. And if you gave it to them dishonestly, well, then your odds are really thin of breaking their control of the board. It's like giving somebody 2 moves in tic-tac-toe or something. You're just not going to be able to win if you give them the first 2 moves. And that's what's being argued here, you jerks. You can figure this out. We have all these games, so that, like I said, you can use Monopoly as an example, use any board game, use any video game, use any, in the real world sport. And we have these sensible rules in place that tell people you can't cheat. You can't take head starts. You got to come to the game with the same number of players and the same equipment and everything else to try to equalize. The whole point is to equalize the contest, to make the contest a good, fair contest. And you assholes keep talking like it would be a fair boxing match if one guy could have 2 guys against 1 or some kind of bullshit like that. What the hell is that? There's no fight, there's no game, there's no match, there's no fairness, and you know it. You know it. And so you're just playing games. And why are you playing this game? Because you're invested in some sort of weasel system that rewards people for their genetics and their blood type, rather than their initiative and what they produce. You rather judge people by the content of their genetics, than their character, as a person, and what they've earned, realistically, what they've invested. So where else does this go? But yeah, that's sort of like the fairness game. The fairness game is to be responsible for the message you make. If you invest in a company and they're all crooks, well, you should pay the bill then. When that goes bankrupt and there's a bunch of debt to be paid, you should pay it. You shouldn't be able to just walk away and say, no, you took my stock money. That's all I owe is the stock money. Or I took my money out in time. I took it out before you caught them as crooks. You know, I took my money out before they're officially declared crooks. So therefore I get to keep all my profits. And that's not fair. That's not responsible. That's not accountable. But these are all the words you're running from, because you don't want a system that obliges people to earn it. Because you're little weasels and cheaters. And that's the only way you can get ahead. You can't win a fair competition, a fair fight. And so you have to cheat. And it's that simple. And for the racist little scums like the S and Fs, you know, again, it's you know, they'll just completely ignore that the facts, you know, where people come from and where they start from. And they'll just keep pretending that somehow there was an equal race, and that somehow the fact that they came in third or fourth is because of their genetics, and not because of the fact that they started 3 miles behind you in the race. And these people are just such weasels. They're such cowards. You know, it's bad enough to be a cheater, but to defend cheating makes you the ultimate cheater. I mean, there's nothing more weaselly and disgusting. So go ahead, be cheaters, but you ought to just be quiet about it. Just be sneaky little cheaters. You know, little quiet cheaters. You know, but when you defend it, you really deserve, you know, to get run over by the steamroller of time hard. You defenders of shit. So, let's see, I think that's probably enough. But it just is so discouraging when people have to run away from the word fair, when they can't even deal with that concept, and they're too chicken and weaselly to even deal with that. You know, because that's an easy concept. This isn't that hard to create fair. Perfect is difficult. Fair isn't. You know, I mean, yeah, you can't undo every disadvantage that's imposed, but there's so much that you can fix, and there's so much that you can make fair, and to run from that is just such crap. And Nick's never accounted for the fact that this problem was I can't say the word now. It was made worse. It was accelerated. It bastard. See, I'm not going to say it. Brain won't do it. Anyway, yeah, it was made worse because of tax cuts. You know, and so again, I'd just like Nick to explain to me why the tax rates in 1970 were so unproductive. It seemed that human civilization was doing pretty good under those tax rates. That labor was well paid, the middle class was growing. It doesn't seem like there was something horrible happening in America or the world. And it wasn't until we started cutting taxes on the wealthy that this all started going to hell. So maybe he could address that reality and quit pretending, you know, that the rich, that money on interest payments should be taxed less at a lower rate than work. Just explain that. I mean, what's so difficult? It's simple little things. You can't define fairness when it's easy to define in every other game in the world. So maybe you could explain to me why you could figure out what fairness is in a polo match, but you can't figure out what fairness is in the economic system. And maybe you can just explain, you know, why income on ownership should be taxed at a lower rate than income on work. Yeah, maybe you could do that. So anyway, enough of a video. Assholes. It's just too many assholes on planet Earth. It needs, you know, need to, unfortunately, yeah. It's time for a good, nasty, hard